You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 162. That is a big number of Teach Better Talk. I am Ray Hewart, and as always, I am with my... I don't have a word for you today. Here's my problem. You're like a huge pain in the butt, but I've used that too many times.
Yeah, no kidding.
So maybe we'll just go with my co-host, Jeff Gargas.
So just your co-host, that's all I get?
Well, see, I was going to do more, but I really want to get to this episode, so rather than really find the perfect word, I'm just going to go with co-host. Let's move on to the next section. We got value to get to here, buddy.
All right, let's go. What's the value? Let's go. Where are we going with this?
The value was in that episode. Our guest shared so much information. Yeah. I want to get to this episode. I don't really want to do an introduction. There's so much to learn.
I don't want to do a ton either because we went a little bit longer. We asked a few other questions and stuff. It took us a little bit longer than normal, but there's so much value, so there's no way we were cutting anything out. So I do want to get to that. Can we do something like real quick here? I just want to show a little bit of love to our listeners. Can we just do that really quick?
Yes, all you need is love. Do, 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 you know? That's a song.
From here on out, I'm going to do my little intro. You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast, and then it's going to be All You Need Is Love by Ray. It's going to be great. No, but so we were talking beforehand just about like thinking about our listeners and how much we love them and just that they allow us to keep doing this, which is really, really cool.
And how I love them a little bit more than you do and how you felt badly about that. And
about how right now, and notice how I just kind of like brushed that off, that like right now they're probably, if you're listening, there's a really good chance you're feeling very overwhelmed right now. Maybe stressed, maybe anxious, maybe just, overwhelmed I think is the best word, but who knows. And I just wanted to sort of be like, hey, we're here for you, just so you know. Like Ray may or may not be here for you, but you can rely on me, you can depend on me, I'm here for you.
I'm here for you.
We say it a lot. And we're going to say it again here. So, like, if you need anything during right now, like, reach out. We do have our drop-ins going on every Monday through Friday in our Facebook group, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. But even more so, like, we're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. Our emails are really easy to remember. It's just our name at teachbetter.com. So, Jeff at teachbetter.com, Ray at teachbetter.com. You can reach out to us with whatever we can do.
You should clarify. Jeff is hard to spell. It's Jeff at teachbetter.com. Just to make sure you have
Ray is really easy, yeah.
It is easy. R-A-E. Done.
I know, but every time you go to a conference, you get a bunch of people your email. I get a bunch because my email is like the catch-all. Someone spells it wrong. So I get like an R-E-A, R-A-Y, R-A-I.
I like when people spell it R-A-R, like they thought my name was Rar.
Sometimes I get an R-E-A, and I'm like, Rhea? I like that. Anyway, what we're trying to say with this nonsense is that we appreciate you. We know you're probably feeling a lot of different emotions right now. We're here for you. If you need us, please reach out.
Please.
With that, let's talk about this really quick, this episode, because it was really, really powerful. I want to get to it. I could read off a million things about Evan Whitehead here if I wanted to, because he's been doing so much for so long. More than 20 years in education. Currently, he's the director of special services for a PK through 8, pre-K through 8 district in Illinois, which he kind of dives into what that looks like. He's also a national consultant for a couple different groups. He works with trainer presenter Dr. Ruby K. Payne in the AHA process. He works with a few other groups that he's done as well, which will allow him to dive into as well. He's had a variety of roles in education across his 20 plus years, and you feel it in his answers here. You feel not only his experience in all the different ways in which he looks at things and his different perspectives, but also his passion for what he does and what he wants to get across. I'm telling you, like, this is a slightly longer episode, but listen to it. Get your notebook out if you can. Like, there's a lot of value in this one. Ray, did I sum it up well enough for you?
You did okay, buddy. You did okay.
All right. Well, with Ray's stamp of approval, we'll get into episode 162 with Evan Whitehead.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to the episode, but I wanted to make sure you had all the details for the Administrator Mastermind that we are hosting on April 15th. You can head over to teachbetter.com/mastermind for the private link to join administrators around the country to ask questions, share resources, and gain insight on Wednesday, April 15th at 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern. Head over to teachbetter.com/mastermind for that private link, and we'll meet you there. Now let's get back to the episode.
All right, we are here. We are chatting with Evan Whitehead. And Evan, so awesome to have you on the podcast and chatting with you. Looking forward to kind of diving into your head and your story, learn about you. I definitely want to talk about your 3 Bs, so we're going to get into that. Love to learn more about your story and how you got to where you're at. But before we get too far into things, how you doing right now?
You know what? I'm definitely learning to navigate this new space as an educator, as a parent, as a husband, and just what that means for us right now, because it's definitely not anything that I expect it to be at this time when I'm here talking to you guys and recording with you. But it's a lot, and for the first time, I feel that educators are very similar, and their world and responsibilities right now is parallel to first responders, because we're on the front line. We're going through a lot. We are considered essential workers, so we are in that group of folks that are still providing support and services to all of our students and families. So also providing those meals that we know that are necessary for a lot of the students that rely on that for consistency. And, what that looks like in, all over the country and even all over the world, as I've been speaking to some folks international, it's very similar. And for the first time, I think we have a lot of synergy. And as an education community, we can all now understand what we're going through together. So, it's interesting, but I think we're going to be in a very good place after all this dies down.
Well, Evan, we are so excited to dive into those details and just all the work that you continue to do as an educator. So I appreciate you coming on to Teach Better Talk, so you're able to kind of share all that insight.
For sure.
Before we get too far in, because I do want to ask you about 35 questions with just what you said right then and there, I want to make sure our listeners kind of understand where you're coming from. So if somebody was to come up to you and ask you what you do, what would be your typical response?
Sure. I usually tailor my response to the person that's asking it. So if it's someone in the education field, I definitely tell them I'm a central office administrator. So I've been director of special services. Also, in my career, I've been an assistant superintendent for special services, and special services covers pretty much all of your federal programs. So Title I, Title III English learners, also special education, Section 504 plans. I also make any mental homeless students, health services. I also oversee early childhood education as well. And if it was someone that was not in the education field and they ask what I do, well, I also tell them that I am an education consultant, which means that I support schools, districts, organizations, so they can better understand education and provide them support that they need to help them improve. And the other part, I always say that, generally speaking, so if I'm speaking to a younger audience or maybe children that are around my children's age or something like that, I tell them, my job is to still teach, but I teach adults and teach principals and teachers, how to be better teachers and principals.
I love it. I love that you tailor it. That's great
definitely.
to hear. So I'm very interested. So in your role as a director of special services, how is everything going on right now with school closings? Like, I mean, a lot of the responsibilities that you have and the population of your students that you directly serve or more directly serve are really ones that are, potentially in a even a more struggle or more challenging spot right now. Is that accurate for me to say that?
Yeah, it's very accurate, Jeff.
It's
It is. It is. It's very accurate.
so. Would you mind? I'm interested to hear like sort of how has this impacted your role, and what are some of the things that you're doing or that you're turning to? I don't know, maybe it's the technology you turn into, or just the methodology, or what? How are you coping, and what are the strategies you're taking to adjust to this? Just everything, just not being on site and still trying to service this population the way that you want to, and that you need to. How are you adjusting?
Well, you know what? It's a very important time, to be reflective, and I was reflective, and our leadership team was reflective because all those things you mentioned have now been magnified, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've and exponentially. So when you talk about students who are, English learners, right now, there is another barrier that's been created because you don't have the face-to-face time in terms of learning a language, and we know that's so important when you're learning a language because there's other concepts such as body language, also, the listening and the visual part that goes hand in hand. It's a challenge when you think about students who are obviously McKinney Vento homeless, who some of them are taking, taxi cabs to school. Sometimes you're talking an hour and a half one way, almost 3 hours, round trip. What does that mean? That's a big piece for them in terms of the consistency that they're used to.
Mm-hmm.
And the students that we have, we are a school-wide Title One district. So based upon our percentages of students that are eligible for free and a reduced lunch, they have a lot of economic challenges as well. So for us, we really, we're very flexible, and we always try to do what's best for students, and we usually go above and beyond. But this was something we had to pause and think about because you know we're fortunate enough to be a one-to-one district in terms of technology, but then as we were planning, we also had to think about Wi-Fi and access, right? So now in terms of equity, right, with access and availability, it comes into play. So how do we do that? What do we need to do? How can we make sure those resources are there? Even with our one-to-one devices, the students historically did not take those home. So what happened is we had to do a very quick turnaround in terms of preparing a document that one, allows those students to take those devices home, making sure that we have the coverage, et cetera, in terms of insurance, and then setting up a system that parents could come to the school and pick up those devices for their students as well. And that was a very quick turnaround as well. The other part is, like most districts in the country, about the meals. Because we provide free breakfast to every student every morning, and we also provide free lunch. You know, we had to be very strategic about what that's going to look like. And just for a little bit of context, this is our second week of the students not being in school. Last week was their spring break, so you know, moving into this now and thinking about what that means is very important, especially for the meals for a lot of our children. So even last week, we provided meals for students to come and be able to have those, and provided them enough even the week before spring break, so they could have enough meals for that time. And we provide a cold lunch, sack lunch for breakfast and for lunch as well. And then the other part is, making sure that if the students and the families can't come to the building, how do we get that to them? So that means, we have to do some home visits, and obviously being careful enough with the health issues, but that's a reality for some. The other part is the planning. I can tell you the planning for a lot of this, it was spring break for us, as I said last week, but our entire leadership team and our staff were actually putting in the work to plan for this week because we didn't want to be caught off guard and not be prepared. So as we went through a lot of our distance learning plans that we had to provide, we had to think a lot about details and what that means for our specific population. And even this past Saturday, there were some families that weren't able to pick up their devices So we went to school, we opened up, we had very similar to like a pull-up service where, they'd fill out the documentation that they needed, and then we provide them their device, and then they would pull off. So we had cars lined up for that as well, because we also wanted to be mindful of the other health issues as well. We didn't want the families getting out of the cars, so we would bring their devices to them so they could be prepared. We're really about meeting everyone where they are, because we understand what that means for our community. And I think that because we've done a lot of the work previously in terms of um, building and making deposits in terms of social capital, for times like this, the community relies on us and trusts that we're going to do the right thing for their students, so that now when we have to ask parents to bear with us a little bit and be flexible during this time because it's all new. We've had very good response from the community in terms of what we're doing and what we're providing and how we're supporting their children.
Yeah, it's just so much that goes into it, just at the logistics level.
Yes.
Before we even touch on before we even get to the delivery of content and doing that, there's just this whole other level that's going on too, and there's of the admin team going through and how we handle those things, and the meals and the devices, and trying to be figuring out, can it be equitable or is it not going to be, even if we do this. And it's been impressive in my mind to see how well so many districts have flipped the logistics so quickly. I was very impressed with my local district here, how quickly they got those things in place prior to. So we closed down here in Ohio the week before our spring break. And this last week was our spring break. This week we're back into e-learning and stuff. So they and so many teachers, and I know so many of them worked continuing with the logistics all last week, but also prepping, so just like you said, so that working during their spring break so that they're ready to come in and do what's best for the kids. And that's been really amazing to see. So I really appreciate that deep dive there. So I want to talk about one thing, something for us here, and interested to get your story here. Something we talk about a lot on this podcast is failure. I'd love to hear you, if you wouldn't mind sharing a story about a time you've had a failure or a challenge in your career, and sort of take us there with you. What happened? How did you overcome that? And then what did you take away from that experience?
Well, there's been many, right? Such as life. And I think that, the point that you did, ask me is important. What did I learn? So I would say that one of the earliest failures, or I should even say life lessons that I learned in education was truly had to do with, I started out as a crisis interventionist at a therapeutic day school. So for your listeners that may not be familiar with that, in terms of the special education alternative school world, so a therapeutic day school is typically for students with individualized education plans, who are diagnosed with a social emotional handicapped, or have the eligibility criteria of emotional disability. And if their needs are so great and intense that the local school district cannot support them, then there are other private day schools that are able to do that, because they're smaller in size, classroom size are smaller, and the level of intense support that they can provide, because they typically have the ratios between adults or staff members to students is smaller, but also the team of clinicians that they have on board to support those students, that have those needs, are usually greater than a local school district. So that was my first job in education, and I was not really familiar with that type of school at the time. And the first day that I worked there, I kind of walked in, and it was a high school. So these are not little ones; these are high school students that typically were the ones that had a lot of challenges in terms of behaviors, discipline, etc. And the first week I was there, We got trained. I had to be trained in terms of physical management strategies. There's a lot of different strategies that are out there just to make sure that I can protect myself and protect the students from themselves and or harming anyone else. And within that first week, um, I found myself in a situation that was called for assistance by a teacher because the student was not complying, and within that first week, I had to utilize physical management, and you know it touched me even to this day. And it's not so much a failure, but I realized that an adult should never feel good about having to de-escalate and physically manage a child. Regardless of the student's age, size, etc. They're still children. And I would say that I worked with some people that didn't see that the same way I did, in terms of they didn't feel bothered by that. It didn't bother them. They actually kind of kind of got excited about it, for lack of a better term. And what I saw there, I knew was something I didn't want to do. And even though I was new to the profession, it kind of shaped me in terms of you know moving forward. What would I know in the future, and how I would interact with students. And it taught me a lot, because I learned the importance of rapport and connections with students, and that really, when your students truly, and they feel that you're there for them, you're honest, with them, they'll do anything for you, academic, social, emotional, etc. So I'd say that was probably my, in terms of failing from something, I would not necessarily, but just learning from an experience that came about, was key. And then the other part was the after. What was after that incident happened? I didn't want to talk, right? I didn't want to talk about it, but I had someone that was an older colleague, a veteran colleague, that sat me down and said, "Hey, you want to, how's everything going? You want to talk about it?" And I kind of wanted to put the thought behind me, but they said, this is part of the job. This is part of what we do, and don't take it personal, right? Don't take that personal, because it's not you that the student is upset with, because that's everything. Like they're going to use profanity. They're going to call you everything under the sun. They're acting aggressive towards you, and I was kind of taking it personal, and they said, don't take it personal. It's not you. It's part of what they have to work on and what they work through. And they said there's going to be other opportunities that are coming, and that the next day, the next week, etc. Those students won't even remember that. So don't take it personal. So I would say that's probably the first and best, kind of failure in terms of not processing, or not knowing how to process it, but learning from it. That's helped me in my career.
Ugh, it's so important. And that idea of not taking things personal is something that every educator needs to learn, but is so challenging to overcome. I mean, even now, I've been in the classroom for a few years, and still even I struggle with this concept. And I think that while it's something that we try and share with teachers, there does come this moment in your career where they're like, oh, I get it, because the student can say something hurtful one moment, and then 24 hours later be the student that you needed them to be. So it's definitely, it's an important lesson, very important. So when it comes to education and everything that you have going on, everything that you've done, what do you feel like is fueling your fire with everything you've done? I think you might have touched on it, but I want to go farther into that. What's really keeping you excited about education?
Definitely now, right? I'm excited about the fact that, this has been like a forced change and a forced self-reflection for those of us in education, right? So, especially here in the United States, in the American public education system, we've talked about so many ways in terms of education reform and policy, and we know what we've gone through in terms of equity and accessibility and access. And, this whole pandemic that we're going through has really allowed everyone to see each other, as humans, right? And, unfortunately, we had to get to this point, but, this current pandemic and this virus, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter your socioeconomic status, your race, religion. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It's touching everyone. So now, it's like you see that people are banding together, and the discussions are more about what's best for students, truly, and how can we serve students. And a lot of these preconceived notions or ideas that have typically clouded, our public education system here in the States. Right now, they're on the back burner. That's not the discussions that we're talking about. We're truly talking about what are we going to do as a system to best support and serve our students and the families. And for me, it's exciting. It's exciting because we have some opportunities to do some things that we've always thought about. Some to be really innovative, to be able to think about how we utilize technology and not allowing technology to use us, and also the way that we look at instruction and what the role is of the instructor, and now putting more student agency into practice, and educators being facilitators of education. And now this is true, project based learning at its best, right? And it's organic. And for me, I'm a very big proponent of social emotional learning and wellness, and it's so critical. And now more than ever, we see that it's important for us to understand certain social emotional competencies, such as self awareness, being able to self regulate, understanding things such as empathy, because now we don't have a choice. And I'm happy because it's happening in a natural way. So it's not some program. It's not some canned curriculum, trying to teach social emotional learning. We're truly experiencing it now. And for me, it's not just about, the students, but also adults, right? Because, the adults also are going through this as well. They're navigating a lot. They're wearing many hats. And previously, there was a transition where you didn't have to wear the hat simultaneously, but now you do. And there's no time to transition from parent to significant other to educator, to possible caregiver. Now in the same time, in the same space, people are being asked to do all of those things. And I think we just have to be mindful of that. And so that's why I think it's really important that now, now there's an opportunity to really think about how do we embed social emotional learning to the work that we do, and not just an add-on or another program for that.
That's so true. I love the outlook of that being the excitement piece of seeing this opportunity. I love how you started it with the fact that like this virus it doesn't care about any of that stuff, and we're finally seeing each other as just people, right? And as all in this together and stuff. I think is really really crucial. So really really enjoyed that answer. I'm sort of taking it in. Sorry. I do want to have a little bit of fun with these next few though. So what I want to do here with you, Evan, is the next 6 questions. I'm going to throw them at you. Your goal is to answer each one in 15 seconds or less. You ready to go?
Yep, I'm ready. All
right. So, number 1, what is one EdTech tool you cannot live without?
Oh, definitely Zoom. I cannot live without Zoom.
Right now. Everyone's marking Zoom there now. Huh?
It's I played around with Zoom a little bit, like probably, I think I started maybe December, January, and just being able to play around with it. Had no idea how valuable and important that skill set would be now, but I definitely cannot live without Zoom. It is a must.
Give us a book you're reading right now.
So, wow, a couple of books that I'm reading. Well, one book is dealing with personal transformation. Okay, and it's called Mindsight, and I've read it a couple times, and I always pick it up and read it again because it's truly helped me, personally, and I think in terms of educators, especially now, it would be really important. So if you're listening, for your listeners, it's Mindset: The New Science of Personal Transformation by Dr. Daniel Siegel. So it's available paperback. You can get it on Amazon. But it really talks about understanding, where you are right now, and it kind of combines mindfulness and foresight, and it breaks it down in a way that's easily understandable with some case studies to help articulate that. So it's really helped me. The other one is when I just started reading is by Damon Young. It's called "What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Blacker," and it's about the experience of education of an African American male in the United States and that perspective and what that means. Really touching on some areas such as obviously the social emotional learning piece, but also identity development and racial identity development and what that means for African American young men and how they go through that process because it's unique and as much as we always talk about and want to keep looking at the humanistic part, we do have unique experiences that make us and shape us and mold us as people. And how do we take that experience to as a positive and learn from it?
Powerful. Who do we need to follow on either Twitter or Instagram today?
Oh, so definitely first person, if you're not following him, you need to follow him now, is Vernon Wright, and he's at the Right Leader at THEWRIGHTLEADER. He is the founder of the Zero Apology Zone family, which I'm a member of, and it's a movement that basically hits on the point that as educators, right? It's okay for us to be unapologetic about things that we know that are right, and to have that voice and to stand up for people that are voiceless, and it's okay. You no longer have to be concerned about, being judged or feeling that your words don't matter, but definitely doing that. So he's definitely one to follow. Another one is Taylor Armstrong, and he's on Twitter. He's at Taylor underscore does underscore IT, and he's another member of the Zero Apology Zone family, and he is a tech director by trade, but his brand is Be the Compass, and it really talks about educators, how they can be that guidance for others. You don't have to be an administrator, to be a leader. You don't have to be someone in a high ranking position. Anything that you do in your daily life, you can be the compass for others, and just by doing what you believe in. So if you're not following him, definitely follow him on Twitter. And then last is Hal Bowman, who does teach like a rock star, who really speaks to how to motivate and encourage students to be who they are and to have a positive self-image, and also supporting teachers so that they can support students to give them that space to be themselves as well.
What's a good YouTube channel or website for educators?
Website, I would say a group, Inspire Citizens. And they're at inspirecitizens.org. So they are an international education organization whose their work is rooted in United Nations Sustainable Developmental Goals, and also a lot of civics education, and really brings in some of the best ideas and platforms from a lot of philosophies around that to help young people navigate the world now as we know it. What are those skill sets that they need to be successful? How can they do it? and then really looking at empathy and taking an empathy perspective and putting that into impact and being able to see that from the standpoint and rooted in those sustainable developmental goals from the United Nations.
And give us a daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher should get into.
So definitely, I would say, I'll start with the daily, routine. So that's my 3 Bs that I've coined, something that I live by. Those are my pillars. The 3 Bs. The first one is balance. The second one is boundaries, and the last one is breaks. So the balance is really, as educators, we want to make sure that we're balancing our time, our energy, and efforts, and also making sure that we do that. We're balancing those two people and projects that are reciprocal. Oftentimes as educators, historically, we put so much into our practice in our field that we're trying to figure out how do we do everything. And right now, it's very fitting that we have so much going on. We have to try to balance that. And even though we're kind of tight for time in terms of what we're doing, we still need to make sure that we're putting our energy into the right things and making sure that is coming back for us. The next one is boundaries, and the boundaries is not so much about the boundaries of others, but more so your own boundaries, being able to stick to them. Oftentimes we do so much, and a lot of the filling everyone else's cups, as I kind of mentioned, but not filling our own. Is what we've done as educators. We're givers, by nature, and oftentimes we can't say no. So the boundaries is about giving ourselves permission to say no. We can't be everything for everyone, and sometimes as educators we get stretched so thin because we want to help, we want to fix, but we don't concentrate on making sure that we're okay and fixing ourselves and making sure that we're the best people so that we can be the best for others. And the last one is breaks. I truly believe in being able to take things in for where they are, being in the moment. I'm a mindfulness practitioner, so I really believe in being able to pause and being present. And for me personally, this is a very strong pillar because I was always a person in the field that was always doing something. I was always, going back to school, finishing up. I was moving to another position, trying to do something, additional, doing all these things. And I kind of forgot how to just be in the moment and pause and to appreciate, where I was and what I was doing. And then, just taking time out for myself, because we all need to do that. We all need to refresh. We all need to re-energize. We all need that to be successful. And, specifically right now, it's almost if nature has told us and forced us to stop, right? As a society, just in modern society, wherever we are across the globe, we're always moving. We're always going 100 miles an hour. We want something to happen overnight, and we kind of chase that. But now, this has forced all of us to pause. It's forced all of us to reconnect with our families, to really have to work with your colleagues as a team, where before you could kind of, well, you know what, I'm going to do my thing, stay in my lane, I'm not going to do anything else. But now people are relying on you. And so taking the time to pause and just take time out for yourself is so important. So, I truly believe, even if it means a couple minutes, every hour, or if it's just 10 minutes when you wake up in the morning, or before you go to bed at night, take that time out for yourself, just so you can have that peace of mind and be able to refocus and re-energize. Weekly, I would say a lot of things that I do, but I would definitely say if everyone can, to listen to one educational podcast. The world of Twitter. I'm fairly new to Twitter and social media. I got on in October. I had no idea the resources and the great folks that are out there, like yourselves, that have content that is truly beneficial. And as an educator, it doesn't matter if you're a first year teacher, or if you're 20-year veteran teacher, if you're administrator, superintendent, board member, whatever your role is, definitely get a chance to listen to a podcast, because there's something for everyone out there, and you can always learn something.
Very cool. I love it. So then, wrapping it up with, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice is to be vulnerable, be authentic, and be you. Be yourself. Because people are going to know when you're not, but also it's you can only fake it for so long, and then the mask is going to come off. But if you're yourself and you're vulnerable, you'll be able to connect with so many people, whether it's students, whether it's parents, whether it's your colleagues. It's kind of that idea of like, it's okay to make a mistake, right? No one's perfect. It's okay to do that. But admitting that, is phenomenal. And then, just being yourself. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to be like, the mentor that you have. Learn from your mentor, but be your own person. And truly stand on what you believe in. Stay firm in that.
See, Jeff, I've been trying to teach you that. Just be yourself.
I know, maybe it's just going to take Evan for me to actually start listening. Maybe that's the problem.
Seriously, our network accepts you for who you are. You are a complete nerd and loser, and you just need to be yourself.
Oh, this is great.
This is my favorite episode. This is something. It's a good, valuable lesson for you, Jeff Gargas.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Evan.
Well, Evan, I want to make sure our network can stay connected with you and continue to have dialogue around all these different topics you shared. So would you mind kind of giving us your contact information and the best way for our listeners to stay connected?
Sure, no problem. So you can, Twitter. Is the quickest way. I'm always on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Evan Whitehead, all together, EvanWhitehead 00. And the hashtag is Balance, Boundaries, and Breaks. You can also find me on a couple different websites, because I am a national consultant for Dr. Ruby K. Payne's AHA process. So you can find me on www.ahaprocess.com. And then when you go to search for consultants, you can find me there. I'm also a member of a consulting firm with my colleague, Dr. Emily Erickson Betts, and we are Strategic Learning Solutions, www.strategiclearningsolutions.com. And then finally, I also do some work with another strategic planning firm that we work with nonprofits, government entities, and also school districts in the area of strategic planning, continuous improvement. And that is www.strategicprojectmanagement, www.strategicpm.us. And finally, I just got on Facebook. Believe it or not, some people told me to get on. So my Facebook handle is just Evan. You can just find me at Evan Whitehead when you do the search. And then finally, my email is Evan Whitehead, all together, evanwhitehead11@gmail.com. And then I'm also on Voxer at EW00.
Awesome. So lots of ways to connect there. So, you can find all the links and all the resources and everything we talked about in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as all of those links to connect with Evan. He's making it really easy for you. He's got a lot of places you can go. So we want you to keep this conversation going. So make sure you head over to teachbetter.com in the show notes for all of that. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. And if you can give us a rating and review, we'd really appreciate that as well. And let's keep taking this one step further. Think of just 3 of your colleagues who need to hear these amazing stories and all this awesome advice and inspiration, and share this podcast with them. Evan, this was awesome, man. I really, really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to share your story, what you got going on right now, everything that you're doing in education to support folks. There's so much value in this episode. I'm super excited for people to listen to it. Just a big thank you from us.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.